Welcome to the Manor Club Extra, where we're going to be bringing you 6 digital shows across the next 6 months. This is going to bring us across all of Oxfordshire, bringing everyone together while we can't actually get into the room at the Cowley Workers Sports and Social Club. And we'll have interviews with past players, as well as bring in physical activities. And everyone here at Oxford United in the community would like to thank the hard work from Age UK Oxfordshire and Active Oxfordshire to make this possible.
Nick Harris, what came first then? Your love of Oxford United or a love of journalism and broadcasting?
Oh, definitely Oxford United, without a shadow of doubt. Yeah, I was still at school. Funnily enough, I lived in Cumnor, where we're filming this now. My dad was a mad, keen sportsman, rugby and cricket. So I didn't I'd watch football on the television, just about black and white in those days. Listened on the radio. I've always had a love of the radio and journalism. Funny enough, I couldn't get in the Cumnor School primary school team, so I used to write the reports, and then they'd pin them on the notice board. Yeah, but I used to go to Iffley Road to watch the rugby. Oxford University had a terrific rugby side, and I could hear noise from across the River Thames, and I always used to wonder what it was. And I'm finding out it was Oxford City, who were the major football club in Oxford then, and of course, played down the Abingdon Road at the White House ground. I found my great friend's dad used to go and watch City, so he took me to watch City one night, and I was really hooked on football. All my friends at school, Jim Rosenthal, one of my great friends, there's a crowd of us, Ian Foster, Graham Jones, all mad keen on football. So keen that Magdalen College School, where I went to school, was a rugby and hockey school. We formed our own football team, and in the end played in a Sunday league. Yeah, so it was a real breakaway from tradition. Jim Rosenthal, Wolvercote Wanderers, that's what we were called, and Jim Rosenthal was very much the heart, the man behind running Wolvercote Wanderers. But they all then started going up the hill to watch this Headington United turned Oxford United side, who were playing in the Southern League then, and were sort of taken over from City, probably as the #1 club in Britain. But me, being as stubborn as I still am, stuck to it. And I used to go to City on my own quite regularly every other week for all the home games. But I did get fed up in the end going to football on my own, and they did persuade me. It was February 1961. You tell I've been doing my homework. They persuaded me to go up the hill on the #2 bus, was it in those days? I think, up Paddington Hill, to the Manor, sat on the wall, watched United. In fact, they lost 2-0 to Bath City. Totally hooked. Totally and utterly hooked. And that was it for evermore.
What were your career aspirations at the time? Did you think you could combine sport with a career?
No, I was absolutely hopeless at school. I left with 1 O-level after 2 attempts, and that was only because the history master told us what questions to revise. So when I left school, I went to work in a solicitor's office in town as a clerk, basically. Absolutely unsuited. The great thing was, though, we started running a Sunday League football team there called Royal St George, who actually turned out to be a very good Sunday League football team. And we used to run it from Cole and Cole's offices in George Street. So there was always the connection there. But no, I didn't. And honestly, I just thought... I used to commentate when I went to Iffley Road to my dad on the rugby, and I used to tend to make newspapers by cutting out articles and sticking things together and all that stuff. I honestly thought, no, that wasn't going anywhere. I then left Cole & Con. I went to work in the sports shop in Cowley Centre, which was fantastic. I loved it there. And we had big ties with Oxford United. We used to supply them with a lot of kit. I became very good friends with Mr. Fish, as it was then, the trainer. It took about 5 years before I said, you can call me Ken. And we supply match balls. And I was up there, well, you can imagine, about 2 or 3 times a week, as much as I possibly could. I then became a rep for a company in Manchester, but for the whole of the Southern England, selling football boots and training shoes. And I honestly believe I really enjoyed it, travelling around, meeting lots of people, a lot of ex-footballers who it was either run a pub or run a sports shop in those days, wasn't it? So I met a lot of ex-footballers playing football for Press Steel in the Hellenic League reserves. I was never good enough to play in the first team, but you know, it was very enjoyable. And I got a phone call from Tony Rosser one day, who was the local bigwig, really, wasn't business-wise, obviously with his building projects, and he wanted really his aim, which he did achieve in the end, to become chairman of Oxford United. He called me up to his house at the Banbury Road. I think I was still in my tracksuit. I'd been training at Preston. Said, we're starting a new newspaper called the Oxford Journal, free newspaper. We want you to become the distribution manager because you know the area, we know you. I said, no, I'm really happy with what I'm doing. So he offered me 3 times what I was earning. Nice company car. So yeah, I said, oh, okay then.
But you hadn't got any, I mean, distribution manager is different to being a reporter.
Oh, totally. So the newspaper duly started, I mean, incredible success. It was the first of the big free newspapers. I mean, very clever concept and amazing thing to be involved in, pretty scary. Used to sleep all night at the printing works, delivering it all. Yeah, fair enough. But because of my love of Oxford United, I started helping on the back page and I started writing a column in the Oxford Journal. And then obviously I started to think, actually, this, you know, this is much more what I want to do. And probably the big breakthrough came. I was one Monday morning, typical Monday morning if you're a distribution manager, under Donington Bridge, picking up newspapers that have been thrown away amongst dog poo and various other things there. And I got the call. Quite how I got the call, I don't know, because there weren't mobile phones in those. So anyway, to go and Tony Rosser wanted to see me back at the office. And he said, we want you to go to Italy next week with Oxford United, who are playing Bologna in the Anglo-Italian Cup. I said, pardon? He said, do the report and everything else. I couldn't find my passport. I think I'd only been abroad once before. I did. Went with United, travelled as a team. It was unbelievable. I was, by that time, Hughie Curran had arrived, the Scottish international from Wolves, and I was doing his column in the Oxford Journal, writing it for Hughie. So I had some contact. I knew all the people through the Sportsman. Fantastic. We went to Bologna. United drew 0-0. I phoned over the report back to England, got some photographs organised, came back. Then 2 weeks later, United were drawn against Roma, golly, to play in the Olympic Stadium in the Anglo-Italian Cup. Off I went to Rome with United. Nigel Cassidy at the time was United centre forward. And I think we played Torino in between in the home game. And Cassidy dished out a typical bit of centre forward stuff. And the Italians weren't very keen. And they told him when he got to Rome, they told Rome that he was so he had a mystery injury, Cass, and he never actually got to Rome. So when we arrived at Rome Airport, I never get the players, because I had a beard and a moustache and everything and long hair. They told the Italian press who were waiting at the airport that I was Nigel Cassidy. So, you know, it was such fun. But the thing is, they played at the Olympic Stadium. They beat Roma 2-0 United, and Hughie Curran got both the goals. I mean, it was just a party of all parties that didn't please Jerry Summers, particularly the manager, and some of the reserves who didn't actually come on the pitch at Roma couldn't play in a reserve game 2 days later at Oxford because they were still so hungover. But when I came back, Tony Adamson from Radio Oxford was waiting to interview the team when they got off the coach back at the Manor, and asked me if I'd like to come and do some stuff at Radio Oxford, make the tea and read the football results. I did, and that's really how it all started, yeah.
So quite a bit of serendipity, a bit of being at the right place at the right time.
Dead right, yeah.
But no formal journalism training?
None whatsoever.
But a love for the community and a love for the club that you were following?
Oh, totally. Right from the word go, it was the community. It was knowing so many people from all different walks of life, all different areas that supported the club. It was an amazing time. I had my my own little place in the London Road. When I was working at the Sportsman, I had to work on Saturdays, so I used to go. I used to have my lunchtime from half time on, then I had to go back to work. I used to race up there. They used to keep a little spot for me in the London Road, my mates, and yeah, and I mean, they were amazing times for United as well. Obviously into the Football League, which was such a big thing for them to get into the Football League. I remember there was obviously no internet, no local radio in those days, and finding out on the BBC News on a Saturday lunchtime, the main news that United had got into the Football League, and running up the road here, my mate had been at school, when he got off the school bus to tell him that United were in the league. And amazing times then, the FA Cup runs, all the way to the quarter-final, that game against Preston. Alex Dawson was offside when he scored that first goal. The Blackburn victory. And the game before, I think the game I remember in that cup run more than anything, they played Brentford at the Manor, and then they played Brentford away. And I really don't know how many loads of fans United took. It used to be in Lime Walk, which was opposite the Manor Ground, where the Britannia pub is on the corner where the club was formed. And I think the whole length of Lime Walk was just coaches going to Brentford. It was amazing. The trouble was they were building the M4 at the time. It shows how long ago it was, doesn't it? And we didn't actually get in the ground till half-time. Half-time, we couldn't get in the ground just through the sheer volume of fans and everything. And United were 1-0 down, but then they scored twice to get through for the Blackburn game. And I can see the Daily Express headline, barrel-chested Billy. It was Billy called sinks 80,000 Brentford, because Brentford spent 80,000 on players. But yeah, it's things like that you remember. And obviously the Blackburn game when Blackburn were top of the old Premier League as it is now. United really did tonk them. And then the Preston game, United were so close as a 4th division side, because I think they would have played Swansea in the semi-final, I think at Villa Park, in horrendous monsoon-like conditions, which would have probably suited them. They really could have got to Wembley as a 4th division side. So it was exciting times, and promotions all the way through with Arthur Turner as manager, Ron Atkinson absolutely driving the club from the Southern League to the Championship, and some great players along the way. And it's great being a journalist and everything else, but just being a fan in the London Road in those days is just as special, to be honest, just as special. Yeah.
Those early days at Radio Oxford then, what was the coverage like?
The coverage then, there'd be a show in the afternoon where they'd cover Oxford United, Oxford City, Reading and Swindon. Yeah, you couldn't do commentary. You just came in for flashes, 30-second flashes if there was a goal, and half-time and full-time. And I can hear me shouting out now, goal at the Manor, down the microphone. They'd be listening. Oh, right, goal at the Manor. Yeah. I started off covering, ironically, which was nice, Oxford City. Before I covered United. Maurice Kyle, who'd been absolutely brilliant centre-half United, was manager there. That was really nice times. Maurice, his wife Rita, they treated me. It all helps, doesn't it? And I really have always had a great love of Oxford City and the old White House ground. And then the chance came to do the United. It was 1975. February, 0-0 against Blackpool.
Was that a report or a full commentary?
No, not commentary. Just the flashes at the time. The commentary came, commentary probably only came when we did commentary every single game about 20 years ago. Although for certain games, obviously the big cup games, they got special permission to do commentary. But the commentary at the first was very, very limited. And for 1 year, dare I say this, I covered Swindon for Radio Oxford, who, to be honest, at the time had a really good side. They went in the same. I think United were in a league lower then. But I think they got to the semi-final of the FA Cup and the League Cup. I remember going to Arsenal. Swindon won at Highbury. I went to White Hart Lane, a few places. Yeah. But part of me didn't want them to win. Part of me did because of the reports. Yeah, but there's only one club in my head, of course.
And you weren't just a bystander at times. You were a director at Oxford United later on.
Yeah.
How did that all come about?
My other, I suppose, I won't say my main career, but a career, when I left the Oxford Journal, I went to work at Motorcycle News and then became a Grand Prix reporter. So I was covering Grand Prix motorcycle racing, well, throughout the world. And then started for the BBC for Radio 2, as it was then, before it became Radio 5. And then the company I worked at, Rothmans, I was running the media manager for the Rothmans Honda team in MotoGP. They switched to Formula One, Sponsor and Williams, and they asked me to go with them. So I went to Formula One, which again was an amazing experience. But Robin Hurd, of course, who became chairman of Oxford United, was very, very heavily involved in Formula One. Massive United fan. Never met him till I went to the first Grand Prix at Formula One in Brazil. I remember going on the plane with him. We didn't talk about Formula One once, so we talked about was Oxford United. He became chairman of Oxford United. He asked me to join the board. I didn't really want to be honest. I was much more interested in the journalistic side. I was, yeah, he persuaded me in the end that I was to join the board. It was an amazing time. It taught me a lot about a lot of things. It taught me a lot about myself, to be honest. First, it was wonderful. United under Dennis Smith and Malcolm Crosby, again, who lived in Cumnor, so it was all part of this great community, and we had some wonderful times together. Built this terrific side that got into the championship and really were flying in the championship. The new ground, everything really started building at the Mentry Farm. We were still playing at the Manor then. I just started to get feelings that all was not well with Robin Wise, well, financially, and not the money they were having to borrow from the banks. The banks had promised the money. But I didn't have any financial experience at that sort of level, none whatsoever. This was completely out of my league. I was on the board to really promote the club through the media, be a bit of a fan's envoy, I suppose, and understand the club from the community side more than the financial side of things. Well, one night we were coming back from Stoke. We did have mobile phones then. The phone rang in the car, and it was Robin. He said, "I'm stepping down as the chairman of the club, but I'm continuing as owner, and everything's fine." Okay. So we had a board meeting 2-3 days later, and it was apparent that the club were in terrible financial plight, millions and millions of pounds in debt. And if something didn't happen, there was every chance the club would go to the wall. And it was the moment to realise this, and the lack of experience or I had of dealing with anything like this. And Jeff Coppock and myself were local people who ran successful businesses, but really not at this level. Dennis Smith was unbelievable. What a fabulous bloke. And I remember we sat in the boardroom under the old Beach Road stand one day from 9 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, and he ran every football club in the country, really, trying to sell a player to save us to going into administration the next day. I left at 9, 10 o'clock. No, and so on. So I braced myself for administration the next day and everything that would happen then. And how could I help? How could I deal with it? And the phone rang at 11 o'clock. Keith Cox, he said, "We've sold Bobby Ford." Sheffield United had come in with an offer, cash, for Bobby Ford for £200,000, and that saved the club. I remember the day well. And then everything that happened since was a nightmare. It was 6 months, a year. For me personally, again, it was completely out of my depth. I felt so responsible to the community and the fans for what was happening. I stopped buying or reading the newspapers. We had some public meetings at the Manor, which were pretty terrifying, to be honest. The public anger and having to deal with that was very, very hard indeed. Meetings in the town hall, and I couldn't drive past the ground because obviously the ground had finished. The travellers had moved in on certain parts of it. It really was a horrible, horrible time, and trying to carry on being a director and trying to carry on. I was still doing Radio Oxford as well, but obviously in a more limited way. It was difficult. I remember, I think the low point came and the high point all in one day. Mick Brown came to our house. Could have been here, actually. I can't remember. Yeah, it was. And Mick had not missed an Oxford United game. He was secretary of the club for as long as me, more than me, probably 30, 40 years. But he hadn't been paid, and he felt that United were playing at Birmingham City that day, that he couldn't go to the game. He was upset. He was in our kitchen here and handed over all the complimentary tickets and saying, Nick, can you look after it? I mean, the club they were on their knees. We went to Birmingham City, St Andrews, in the afternoon. Did what I had to do with the complimentary tickets. Watched the game. Birmingham were top. Trevor Francis, manager, 25,000 there, and United won 1-0. And I actually cried at the end of the game. I'll never forget the emotion of it all, and it made me realise what football was to everybody in Oxford, the community, to me, to just everything about it. And obviously they went down at the end of the season. It was mighty, mighty close. I remember we won at Sheffield United on a Friday night with a free kick in the injury time. And yeah, and then Mr. Kassam came in. He made it quite obvious from the start that we would have to start mortgaging our houses and put more money into the club and everything else. And it was time to move on. And it was a relief, to be honest, to come back to being just a fan and a radio commentator. It was a time of my life I will never, never forget. As I say, I felt so responsible and so just helpless. And I did absolutely everything I could to help the fans, tell the fans what was going on. But it was pretty scary, and there were some pretty nasty things said at the time by certain people about the board and about us, which were very unfair because we were just trying to keep the club running while things were happening. Yeah, but
has it given you a better understanding of the behind the scenes of football?
has it just? Yeah, very, very much so.
For better or for worse?
I think for worse, to be honest. And to be honest, to me, not involved in that side of it at all now, but with everything that's going on in football now, agents, money, it just seems to be getting worse and worse at all levels. I find that sad, and I'm not stupid. I mean, we all understand modern day money. We all understand finance. We might not agree with it, but I think in football in particular, in certain aspects of football, it's completely and utterly out of hand. Yeah.
Your other love is two wheels.
Oh, yeah.
How did that begin? Are you a rider?
I was a rider. Again, absolutely no connection with two wheels at all in the family. Started watching scrambling, which used to be on the television, but on both channels, I think, wasn't it? Yeah. On Saturday afternoons, we had a lad in the village who was a very good scrambler, motocross rider as they are now. And I used to go to Speedway, yeah. I mean, Speedway was almost as big or even bigger than football in the 50s and 60s in Oxford, the Oxford cheaters, as they were there. Every Thursday we used to go from the village in the coach, Harold Clack's coaches, stop at Dean Court, pick the lads and lasses up, Speedway, programme, hot dog, stop on the Botley Road, fish and chips on the way home, a bit of flirting in the back seat of the coach. Back it was a Thursday ritual. So I was interested in two wheels, and I did get interested in scrambling. And while I was at school, Simon Jarvis, again, who was a United fan, said, look, me and my dad are going to Mallory Park, it was, to watch a motorcycle race. Would you like to come? I went. I can hear and feel the moment now. Mike Hayward, who lived just over the hill here in Boars Hill, probably the greatest motorcycle racer that ever lived, changing down through the gears, going into the hairpin on that Honda 6 at Mallory Park, and I thought, oh, I was totally hooked. Yeah. So my working life has revolved around Oxford United and Grand Prix motorcycle racing. You'd say that is pretty lucky, really, isn't it? Yeah.
Have you ever missed any big games or any events on either side because of a clash of
No, I've never missed a Grand Prix because of Oxford United games. I have missed big Oxford United games because of Grand Prix, because it was my full-time occupation, and but the Grand Prix paddock, everybody, all nationalities in every way are interested in football. So we used to talk about football for hours and hours and hours. And when I was doing Formula One, there was Robin Hurd, there was other people, Eddie Jordan, really, really keen, really big United fans. So I remember United got promotion that year under Dennis Smith, and we had a massive party. We were at Imola in the Williams hospitality unit. Eddie Jordan bringing bottles of champagne, and people were saying, I don't know what's going on. Oxford United got promoted. In Formula One, and yeah, it was good. And when I came into Formula One, it really helped me, because I didn't know anybody in Formula One, but I became known as the guy that could always get the football results. Again, it was before a lot of the worldwide net, really. So I was always a guy, I was doing a lot of BBC stuff, that would always bring the football results in. And so it really helped. And yeah, I remember, I think we were in Melbourne or Adelaide one year. And obviously I was heavily involved with Damon Hill, because it was the Williams team. And he'd won the race. And after the race, he said, Nick, he said, there's thousands of people in pit lane. And he said, I spotted a flag right at the back. I said, what's it? It's an Oxford United flag. He said, is it one of your mates? He said, I know. Yeah. And then following United, while being abroad, it became quite a habit. I remember listening to Guy Whittingham's goal, was it, that equalised against Swindon, on the phone. I was sitting on the beach in Rio at the final Grand Prix of the year, being in press conferences and looking at my phone. When United got promoted the last time, I was doing the qualifying press conference. Jorge Lorenzo just qualified in pole position. I was doing the interviews, and the phone United had been promoted. You don't forget things like that. My fellow commentators are big football fans. Matt Burt was a massive Leicester City fan, so we went through all Leicester winning the league. Alpine Stars Hospitality, Saturdays we'd always go there, and they could get Sky and BT Sport there, so we'd always watch football. And meeting some, Maradona came to one of the Formula One races. I remember my daughter, the autograph. The guy that got David Beckham sent off in the World Cup, he came to it. Well, he came to one of the races. Captain of Spain and the Real Madrid centre-half. He was Ramos. He was the boyfriend of one of the Spanish television girls, so he was always coming. Yeah, so there was always footballers about. My boss at Dorna, the communications director, Manal Arroyo, was a director of Barcelona. So I'd sit in his office sometimes, and honestly, people would be ringing up. You wouldn't believe, and we were just discussing my contract for next year or something. It was a throwaway thing, and he'd be ringing up, and somebody'd be ringing up with, yeah. So football was very, very much a part, and the paddock, Valentino Rossi, everybody, they were all mad on football. And when there was international games, especially World Cup games, we used to sit together and watch. I remember going, Yugoslavia, England played Holland in the World Cup one year. I went a massive splitting the hospitality in half. Holland on one side, England on the other side, and then Kenny Roberts coming in. I saw this fuss about what is soccer, but soccer, football played a big, big part of it. And then they combined it in many, many ways, yeah.
Nick, how lucky are Oxford United fans to have three experienced fans as broadcasters at Radio Oxford. I mean, how lucky are we as a county to have this coverage that we get?
I've never really thought of it like that. It just comes sort of naturally, I suppose. I think the Radio Oxford coverage is fantastic, and that's enormously down to Jerome, who has worked so hard to get that coverage in every way, and the coverage is fantastic. Being great fans is a help and a hindrance. Sometimes, what I used to call me at the back of the old London Road, old cloth ears, because I'd never heard what they were screaming and shouting. He's probably right. It's quite hard being a fan and commentating and reporting and punditry and everything else, but you've got to have that bias. That's what it's about. But I think you also have to be brave enough to speak your mind when you want to. We've all had fallouts in various ways with managers and what have you. I think that's part and parcel of what it's about. And I think it's important that you try to be honest if you're not happy about something. But I think the coverage is. I won't say unrivaled, because I'm sure other areas, and I listen and know a lot of journalists from other clubs, from other radio stations who seem to be doing a similar job, listening to their programmes sitting next to them.
You three must travel up together in normal times or across the country covering Oxford United games. I mean, it must be fun going to work.
Yeah, it is fun going to work, isn't it? Work's always been fun since I got into journalism. For me, I don't think I've ever woken up once and thought, "Oh dear, I've got to go to work." So yeah, it is fun, and you do form a great bond. You have your ups and downs. You have your arguments. Certainly on my other side of life, when you're travelling, you're away for 3 weeks at a time. Sometimes there was periods where you thought, "Yeah, I just need to get away here and just be on my own for a little while." I don't say that probably happens with us just travelling on a daily basis. Yeah, it's great fun. There's a routine to it. We know what we're doing, where we're going. It's got 100% worse over the last 5, 6, 7 years traffic-wise. I mean, to go up north, that sounds terrible, whatever, from a southerner, but go up the M1 and the M6 on a Saturday night, you have to be very, very aware of what's happening with the traffic. We've had some incredible close shaves who have not been there when the game started, or just arriving as the programme's going on air, and many times now. It's very, very different to what it was even 10 years ago. You really have to plan your journeys now. Coming home very late at night, which perhaps I don't do as much as I used to. Motorways being closed. I think United as a team in the coach have found that out, that it can take them hours to get back from places. You're getting back at 2 or 3 in the morning sometimes. The traffic conditions do not make it easy, no.
Are there certain, when the fixture list comes out, are there certain grounds, maybe it's the legroom in the press box, maybe it's the tea and the biscuits,
right,
that you love going to, and some that you don't like going to? Can you share some that you do?
Yeah, legroom and not very helpful, Northampton. Yeah, not an easy place to work for. Fleetwood is a long way to go. They're friendly enough there. You find clubs that have come down from the Championship always provide a meal, so you tend to like to go. It's a long way to go to Sunderland, for instance. It's a long way when we played at Middlesbrough in the Cup. Newcastle, they treat you so well. They're big proper football clubs, but not only that, they respect and understand what you're doing, and they respect and understand you're probably coming from a smaller club. It's an absolute delight to go to places like that. Other places, it's difficult, and not always through their own fault, just through the size of the grounds, the facilities. You wouldn't believe how Jerome can produce a 4-hour programme with some of the places we go to. Sat like that, you cannot move. You don't move for 4 hours. You're dying for a wee. You're cold, freezing cold. All the lights have been turned off. You're there in the dark, and yet he manages still to produce that programme. People honestly wouldn't believe somehow how really, really bad it is. Yeah, yeah.
There's one perhaps highlight that stands out to many Oxford United fans, and you were the voice of that day, 1986, the Milk Cup final. Was it the dream moment for you, or was it a difficult day? What was it like?
It's so difficult to it all happened in so quickly, to arrive at Wembley with Peter Baker, but hours before anybody else, to find the commentary position right up in the gods with the pigeons at the old Wembley, to sit with Les Taylor, who was the fellow commentator, because obviously he'd been there with Watford in the FA Cup final. The incredible game, it sort of passed in a flash. To hear it now, I won't say brings a tear to my eye, but it still brings a lump to my throat. And seeing Jim Smith walk off the field at the end, and the fans, you should have stayed at Oxford, and him waving to the fans. Maurice Evans, the manager of Oxford at the time, who I think without a doubt is the most knowledgeable man about football I ever met in my life, and the nicest man you could ever meet, for him to win the bus ride through the city the next day with the open top Rolls Royce, was it, with his lordship at the front, and the town hall, and Rosie coming out with the milk cup on that balcony, who had missed the final. Just everything about it. Yeah, there's been many amazing days before and many amazing days since, but it probably is the highlight if you really think about it. And being at the old Wembley with 95,000, I think 37,000 Oxford United fans, 37,000 from the team from little non-league side from Headington up the hill. It was incredible, and the way United played that day, and the performance of Trevor Hebbard that day in particular was just outstanding, outstanding.
Did you grip the microphone a little tighter that day? Are you a nervous person, and did you have nerves that day?
Yeah, I had nerves, but I tried to. Did I treat it professionally? I obviously was more nervous, but I think you get so, and it still happens to me now for United, and when Bradley Smith was the local lad in Grand Prix, was winning Grand Prix, I try to treat, you do take over a professional air. You want, the programme becomes incredibly important, that the programme's good, and I suppose that you're good. I mean, I don't think of it in that way, but the programme's good, and that you're doing what's happening justice. It's happened to me in a very sad other way when I've been involved in terrible accidents in Formula One. I had to announce the death of Ayrton Senna to a lot of BBC World Service, and other terrible incidents. And there was an old journalist in Oxford called Colin Fenton, and my great friend was killed motorcycle racing, a guy called Mick Patrick. And I remember him phoning me up to tell me he'd been killed. So you're coming into Radio Oxford then to do a piece. I said, no way. You are, because that's how you do him justice. And I've always tried to stick to that in situations in tragedy. And I've been involved in a good few with the very sport I've been involved with, but also in triumphs, to really do a good job, not to get completely and utterly carried away. Hasn't always happened. There have been carried away. The playoff final, obviously, when Oxford got back into the Football League. Yeah. Oxford United back on the coupon, wasn't it? Jerome's comment. I mean, what a comment to make. And the bad times. Obviously, the Leyton Orient game when we went out of the Football League. That season, I remember the game at Stockport that United lost, and interviewing Chris Hargreaves, and just realising, stood there, that United were finished. I just knew that the club was in complete and utter disarray. I remember the moment why, but trying to convey it properly, not get completely and utterly carried away. Yeah, yeah. But of course, you get carried away sometimes.
You mentioned Jerome's comment, which has passed into folklore, back on the
Yeah.
coupon. Do you write pre-prepared lines? What's your research?
Yeah, no, I don't write pre-prepared lines. No, never have. In both sports, yeah, a lot of research, a lot of facts and figures, write previews. Not always, but try to write previews, especially now as I'm getting a bit older. But I've always let it flow. Yeah. And I think if you try to write pre-prepared comments for good or bad times, no, I think you just got to let it come out as it is. Surely now, the Wembley's gone all yellow and blue, wasn't it? That's what I remember. And surely now the cup is on its way back to Oxford. Yeah, they weren't pre-prepared, they just came out, yeah. And I'm sure with Jerome back on the coupon, just came out, yeah.
You're known for a few turns of phrases. I know Nathan always calls you up on the heads go up.
Yeah, that's right.
One would imagine.
One in the back of the net. On the brakes in MotoGP, yeah, on the brakes, yeah. Well, you used to go to places like Australia, they used to stop you and say on the brakes, Nick, say on the brakes. Go on, just, you'd be at the airport, somebody would come to you, just say it once so we can hear you say it, yeah. And yeah, there are, in the back of the net. What was it? The darkness descending over, shot over. Oh, yeah, the old manor, there was lots of them, wasn't there? Yeah.
It seems like the Radio Oxford team have a lot of fun around Christmas. You seem to have a Christmas tape.
Christmas tape, yeah. Always seems that I'm on it more than anybody else. Yeah, of course you make mistakes. I have, and I always have had trouble pronouncing certain names. I think there is a word for it, which I probably can't pronounce anyway. But yeah, once I get them, I'm all right. And obviously in MotoGP, there was a lot of names to learn and difficult names. And yeah, people used to hoot with laughter and they used to get loads of emails and still do from some of the, what did Joe Jerome say last week when they were at Walsall? The United bench had some difficult names. And some of these youngsters said, Nick cowering in Cumnor, looking at the subs bench. Yeah, probably right as well.
In terms of your research, are you handwritten and highlighter pens and meticulous notes? Or?
I won't say meticulous notes. I am handwritten. I suppose that's habit more than anything else. I'll print off league tables, and I'm not somebody that is averse to the internet and computers and everything else. But I tend to handwrite previews and research notes. Yeah.
And you've spanned quite a few good Oxford United teams. Any players that stand out over the years?
Oh my golly, I knew you were going to ask me this, and I was trying to think. Early days, Ron Atkinson. Ron Atkinson was Oxford United. Ron Atkinson took Oxford from a Southern League club called Headington to the Championship, and it was Ron's with Arthur Turner as manager, but it was Ron that. Absolutely typified everything about Oxford United Football Club. He led the tank, and he was the tank. He would tell you he was the best footballer in the world, and he was better than Eusebio and Pele. He wasn't, but he had a heart bigger than anybody, and he led that football club. And so Ron, I think, was world-class players. Obviously, John Aldridge. I think we even realised at the time that we had somebody so special here. And how he arrived with Robert Maxwell going to Newport, supposedly putting £60,000 in notes on the table of the boardroom, saying he's coming with us. That could be a bit of folklore, but it made it. John Aldridge. It's hard, isn't it? Because some players didn't have long careers at Oxford, but I think Mark Wright played on that England World Cup team and was voted the best centre-half in the world, wasn't he? He was voted in the World Cup 11 that everybody picked from that World Cup. And he's a Littlemore boy and played for United before moving on. You've got to mention Joey Beecham, of course, who... He reminds me, I'm sorry to bring someone in here, Don Rogers at Swindon, who used to tear Oxford United apart, was local man, had the sports shop in Swindon, never moved on quick enough, would have surely been a great international. Joey, I think, was the same. And the day that they were trying to persuade me, Keith Cox and Robin, to take over, to join the board, sat at the Manor, and Keith Cox was walking around the pitch with Joey Beecham, trying to convince him to go to West Ham, because I think it's £1 million transfer and United needed the money. And he went to West Ham, didn't work out, went to Swindon, came back to Oxford, and was unbelievable. But in some ways I'm a little bit sad, because I think Joey Beecham would have gone on to be a truly great player. He was very, very special. On a personal level, Hughie Curran. Hughie came as a Scottish international who scored for Scotland against England at Wembley, beat Gordon Banks, had come from Wolves, absolute top-class, Premier class player. Came to Oxford with a knee injury. We became great friends because I used to write his column. When we went to Italy that time, he really looked after me, Hughie. I'll never forget, it was that game after the Bologna game. I was in the telephone booths in the hotel. The lads had gone off to find somewhere for a party. They were happy themselves. And I was phoned over my first ever report. Quite a big thing to do, you know. Again, no real journalistic experience. Halfway through, the tap on the window, Hughie opened the door. He said, "Look, the lads worried where you are. No phoning the reporter. I've come back. They told me I've got to wait with you. So when you've done that silly reporting business and got sorted out, you can come and join the party." I'll never forget. And there's little things like that that are very, very special and made things extremely special for me and helped me in my career.
Away from the players, perhaps the bricks and mortar, what are your memories of the Manor ground?
Oh, everything. Absolutely everything. Probably a little bit soured at the end because of being a director, and that we used to sit in that boardroom. I can taste that bit of coffee in the boardroom now when we used to sit there, and obviously things were going terribly wrong, just sat in there. But apart from that, just everything. When I first watched United, the London Road was being built, hadn't been built. It was a mud bank behind the goal. And we used to sit on at the Beach Road stand. There was a terrace. This was to the end. There wasn't. You could sit on the wall behind that terrace. And Les Bateman, the manager, the grounds used to come along and shoo us, "Get off that wall!" and everything. So the Manor ground was everything. And when you come from Cumnor, you could drive from here and you could see the floodlights and the Manor ground on when you used to go. Just couldn't wait to get there. Saturdays and evening matches. It was an unbelievable place, and must have been later on, I used to wait in the tunnel when the players used to come out, and down those little steps, and it was tight, and there'd be Vinnie Jones smacking that wall for leaves, and it was just everything. And when United beat Blackburn, I took a piece of turf, I remember. I was one of the first lads to jump over the wall onto the pitch and kept it in a jar for years. So a friend of mine, dear old Les Bateman, we never told him, had a corner flag from that game in his bedroom and things like that. Yeah, it was the place, wasn't it? Yeah.
Do you think that there's a bit of mythology about bigger sides coming to the Manor, especially on, say, a Tuesday night? But did you see, you got close to them, did you see opposition players physically sort of visibly crumble as they stood foot on the Manor?
Without a shadow of doubt, the big clubs would come and they'd look, and the atmosphere was electric. There was the slope. I mean, with the United fans kicking down towards the London Road, got behind the team, you could feel the fear, but the worry. And we saw so many big clubs. That Everton game, and Everton could have beaten Liverpool to win the league, and Les Phillips' goal. I mean, what a night that was! I can see that ball going in the back of the net now. Swindon came as League Cup holders. They'd beaten Arsenal the year before at Wembley in that. Remember the pitch? They'd had the Horse of the Year show or something. They hadn't they? Swindon and won. And we beat them. David Sloan header with the smallest man on the pitch. And we beat Swindon when they were the hold. I think it might have been the first time we beat Swindon. I think it was the first time we certainly beat, probably ever we beat Swindon, certainly at the Manor. You don't forget the Blackburn game. You just don't forget games like that, do you? Never forget it.
From those highs to some of the doldrums of the conference years more recently, did it test your faith in the club?
No. It made me realise what a massive part of my life and the community of Oxford it was. The conference first year was quite fun, wasn't it? It was a bit of an adventure, and we were running away with it at one time. And I remember going to a meeting in London, and I said, I've got to go now, I'm off to, I really forget where it was. It might have been it couldn't have been Dagenham, because I think we played one of the first games. No, I said, I'm off somewhere now. He said, oh, Oxford United, yeah, the Chelsea, because I think Chelsea were leading the Premier League by 12 points. Of the conference. Yeah, and we were, weren't we? And then that was one of the lows, wasn't it, when we lost that playoff game against Exeter that first year. And then it was pretty hard going. I remember coming back from Nantwich, Victoria. Was it Nantwich or Northwich, Victoria? And we'd lost, and we had the radio on in the car, and Reading were playing Liverpool in the Premier League. And I remember driving thinking, gee, this is grim. And going to Sudbury Town in the FA Trophy. Yeah, but it was quite strange going to these places. Yeah. And I met some incredible people at these clubs that were the very backbone of football and what made football so great in this country, to be honest with you. And again, the community side of it, you go to Ebbsfleet or you go to some of these places. We did meet some amazing clubs and amazing Histon. It was like a little village club, wasn't it, on the outskirts of
And they beat us.
Cambridge, and they beat us pretty well. As well, and then them cooking spaghetti and beans for all the players after going. All their team was sitting around having baked beans and toast after the game. And it was an eye opener. The game against Luton at the Manor, the crowd I think was 10,500, and I was telling people when I was doing MotoGP, the football people, we had 10,500 for a non-league game on a Tuesday night. And I think the word today, it was the largest crowd at a football match in Europe that night. They just would not believe me. They just wouldn't believe me. No, don't be silly. Yeah.
From the adversity of the
and Jamie Cook got that great goal in that game, didn't he?
It was a stunning goal, that.
Yeah.
From the conference came some sprouts of positivity. Chris Wilder, for instance.
Oh.
Speaking of managers, then, you must have got close to a number of them over the years. Good ones, bad ones.
Yeah. I think, obviously, Arthur Turner, I didn't get close to, but took the club with Ron Atkinson to the Championship. After that, I think there's been some unsung managers. Jim Smith, obviously. What Jim was amazing, but somebody laid the foundations there was Ian Greaves. Ian Greaves came in the club really at a low ebb. He did an amazing job. He really reinstated the faith in the club. We had that win at Brighton in the FA Cup, didn't we? Well, when they were in the Premier League or the First Division, then it eventually fell out with Mr. Maxwell, which all the managers did in the end, and went to Wolves. He did a great job. I tell you who else he did a really good job at Oxford United, and very underrated, was Brian Horton. Brian Horton, with very little resources, kept us in the Championship with that game at Tranmere when we had to wait for the results, I think, from Plymouth. And then built a really good side. United, they had some very good performances. Went on to Manchester City. Very, very underrated. Dennis Smith and Malcolm, I'm still great friends with, did a terrific job. With Robin Hurd's money, built a very good Championship side. Brought some great players in, like I might add, Matt Elliott, brought Joey Beecham back. Yeah. And in modern days, Michael Appleton. Did a super job for the club, didn't he? And then I got to say, Carl Robinson. We talk about people who understand the ethos of Oxford United. They understand that it's far bigger than just a football club, and I really do think Carl Robinson embraces that and really understands that. And I got great admiration for him for that, very, very much so. And I think he understands it's not a sleeping giant, but it could be such a successful, vibrant club. I think it is a vibrant club, but just with a little push here and there and a little bit of help. The fan base, the community side of Oxford United, there's nothing like it in Oxford. People tell me I was brought up watching rugby and, university sport and everything, which was massive when I was a kid, and the Pegasus football and everything else, but Oxford United has clipped to all that, you know. Premier League rugby came to Oxford and they couldn't support it. Imagine if Premier League football came to Oxford. You sell the Sam out 10 times over every week, wouldn't you? And it's a massive part of what Oxford is all about, and it's something that embraces. Oxford's an incredible city. It's so diverse, isn't it? And in some ways, the football club sort of embraces all that. And I think that's what I love about it as much as anything else.
It seems to me, talking to you, your enthusiasm is completely undimmed. What does the future hold for you in a broadcasting sense? And as a fan, will you retire to your own padded seat in a sort of next to the director's box, or will you keep on broadcasting?
I'm lucky. Obviously, I'm doing less commentary now. The old eyes probably aren't as good as they were, and having to accept that is not easy, but I do. I love what I'm doing now, and I will carry on. One day, of course, I'll stop. I don't know about a padded seat. I will sit with my mates somewhere. Even now, it started in some ways, because after the game we go to the Sea Court, the pub in Botley. I love it. It's what a Saturday afternoon is all about to me. We go in there. They have 2 screens on, different games going on. 50–60% of the people are there have been to the United games. So there's a lot of banter and wonderful. Couple of pints, and that's how I will, without a shadow of doubt, end up in the end. I hope I can broadcast a fair bit longer, but I'll be the first to know, and I'll be told nicely and gently that, you know, okay, you've had a run, and that's, yeah. I've had, well, nearly 60 years, we said, didn't we, of watching United, and it won't end till the day I'm put into that box, and I expect there'll be yellow and blue flowers on the coffin. Yeah.
Have you passed on your love of Oxford United to your wife, to your daughter? Do they?
Yes. Certainly my wife, yeah, obviously. I always had, my wife met me when I had a beard, and I always had a beard. We got married, still had the beard, everything else. And the beard only came off the morning, actually, after the Milk Cup semi-final. I arrived home without a beard. It had been shaved off. And that's the first time my wife had seen me without a beard. So she lived with my daughter. Yeah, she not quite so much. She used to come to all the games when I was a director. And so, quite recently, she's in her 30s now, she said, "Dad, I used to look at that clock on the dressing room stand and wait for 20 to 5 to come up. Then it was a hot cup of tea and some cake." But no, she does follow, and she always checks on the results, always wants to know what's going on, yeah.
And finally then, Nick, when you look back, is there one moment that you pick out as you know, the best moment in your career following Oxford United?
In my career, probably the Milk Cup final, I think, when you reflect on it. And what Morris Evans said at half-time, it's the Milk Cup final, have you got the bottle to go on and win it? Wow, what a thing to say, eh? What a day. It's like all great days in your life. They pass so quickly, and it's only when we reflect over 30 years back what an incredible day it was. But what makes it so special is the good and bad times, isn't it? I think you have to be a fan to realise that your total commitment to the cause. You have to have good and bad times, and we've had plenty of those over the years, haven't we?
Brilliant. So we're going to start off with just a nice little march, just letting your arms swing by your side, just nice and gentle. The chair's there if you need it for a little bit of support. And we're just going to march through the legs. Good. Super. And then just bring your legs to a nice little halt. And then we're going to raise the heel on each side. And as we raise the heel, we can then bring an arm over the top and do a nice little reach. But just reaching as far as you feel comfortable to do so. Fantastic, good. And then last one to each side, and then bring your arms down, lovely. So nice shoulder roll. So bringing your shoulders forward, up towards your ears, and back down. And just one more, up towards your ears, and back down. Fantastic, lovely. And then take your feet into a nice little march. So just make sure you've got some nice width in your feet and your feet are not too close together. So we've got a nice balance through the body. Standing nice and tall, getting the chest nice and proud. Excellent, good. And then bring the march down to just a little march. You're just moving the heels, and then we're just going to tap to the front at a little angle, and we can bring an arm in. So we're tapping out. Super. And 3, 2, 1, and bring the arms in and back into your little march again. This time we're going to dig out with the heels. So we dig out with the heel and back in and change and back in. And just keep that going. So heels, just digging out, and we can bring some arms in. So a little bicep curl as we dig in those heels. Super. And 3, 2, 1, and rest. And just a little bit of movement through the feet, just to catch your breath. And then just take your feet a little tiny bit wider and just take it into a little sway. So we're just swaying this time, side to side. You can bring an arm in, and you can raise the toe a little bit as well if you want on that side, so that you're sort of balancing on one leg. Excellent, last one. Brilliant. Bring the arms back in. Bring your feet back into your normal hip width. Good. So nice width in the feet, soft through the knees. And we're going to go into our first balance exercise. You've got the chair there if you need for a little bit of support, so that if you do wobble, you can maybe hold the chair or whatever. So we're going to raise the heels and go onto the toes. So really getting the weight through the big toe and the one next to it. And then lowering back down under control. Super. This time we're going to go up onto the toes again. So up onto the toes. Bring one hand up and draw a nice big figure of 8. Good. And last one. Brilliant. Bring your arm down and then lower the heels nice and gently to the floor. Fantastic. Just give your feet a little bit of a march. Good. Now we're going to do the same with the other hand. So we're going to go onto those toes, driving those heels up as high as you can, getting the weight right through the big toe and the one next to it, and then drawing a nice big figure of 8. And then bring your hand down and then lower them heels. Super. Give your feet a nice little march so we get a nice bit of movement through the calf muscles to give them a bit of a relief. Excellent. So, next balance exercise, we're going to go onto the heels. So this one, I'm just going to turn to the side so you can see, because it's really important that you stand tall with this one. So, take the weight onto your heels and raise your toes. And stand tall. Important that the hips are pushing forward. And standing with a nice long spine. And then lower the toes nicely under control. Good. This time we're going to go up onto the heels by raising the toes again. And we're going to do some little steps on the heels. So bring your toes up and just try some little movement and keeping your balance on those heels. Good. And then bring it to a halt so you're nice and balanced, and then lower them heels. Super. Give the feet a nice little bit of a march just to give the calves and the feet a bit of a relief. Excellent. So next one, we're going to stand by the chair so you can use the chair for a bit of support. Draw your inside leg in. Good. Then with the outside leg, we're just going to take the foot back, so you're going onto the toes. And then we're going to bring it forward and do that heel dig. It will mean that you'll need to do a little bit of bend in this other leg. So bring it forward and dig with the heel, and then take it back onto the toes. And come forward and dig with the heel and bring it back onto the toes. Last one, bring it forward, dig with the heel, come back and step out to the side. Good. Really important you do both of these exercises on both legs, but you can do that in your own time. Excellent. So standing by the side of the chair again, just bring that inside leg a bit closer. Take your weight onto the inside leg. We're going to do similar. So we're going to take the heel back and try and bring the heel up a little bit. Standing nice and tall, getting those shoulders back. And then drawing that leg through. So we balance in on one leg as we draw the knee through. Maybe have a little bit of a play around as to how much grip you've got on that chair. Super. And then bring that leg down and bring it back into your nice standing position, and just a nice little bit of a march through those feet. Good. Now, because we've done some balance exercises, the calf muscles have had to work really hard. So we're just going to give them a nice little stretch. So if you step back on one leg, important when you step back to try and step back with some width in your feet as if you're standing on the railway line. And then drive the weight into that back heel and a little lean forward. Now you must hold on to the chair for this one because you don't want to wobble when you're stretching. We only want the brain to think about this muscle that we're stretching. And then step back in and go with the other leg. So step back onto the ball of your foot first and then drive the weight into that heel. Super. And standing up nice and tall with maybe just coming forward a little bit. Excellent. And come forward and a little march through the heels. Super. So width in your feet, and I just want very gently just to turn your toes out a little bit, a bit like a penguin. And you're going to bring your hands up to the front, and we're going to do one hand at a time, like a little wave, coming over and back. And the other hand over and back. And so we like in Tai Chi, it's like waving the clouds, and we push the cloud down. And the other hand, last one, and push the cloud down. Lovely. Nice big roll through the shoulders, and just one more big roll. And then standing nice and tall, nice long neck. Just drop your left ear to your left shoulder. And come up to centre. And right ear to right shoulder. Fantastic. Standing up nice and tall. Last little stretch. So just bring your feet back into your normal hip width with your toes facing forward. And we're coming round with the hands and pushing the chest out. And you can bring your hands behind you. You can place them on the base of your spine or just catch hold of your fingers and just push your chest out and look forward. And then bring them forward, give them a little shake and give your shoulders a little wiggle. And then we're just going to do 2 big breaths to finish. So fingers together, nice big breath in and breathing out. And just one more, nice big breath in. And breathing out. Lovely. And just bring your hands to the side and give yourselves a big clap. Well done. Fantastic.